Alright, how Faxon became the putting stroke whisperer. During a charity event a few years ago, Brad Faxon was asked what he's thinking about when he putts. A hush fell across the green as everyone within earshot eagerly awaited the answer. Imagine having the chance to quiz Leonardo da Vinci about the creative process, or Ben Hogan on the finer points of ball striking. Arguably the best putter of his generation, if anyone could crack the complicated code of speed, line, and pace, it would be Faxon. Faxon mulled the question for a moment, shrugged, and finally said, rhythm and tempo. If Faxon's take seems a tad underwhelming, and it did that day to everyone in his group, the genius of his simplicity was on display last week at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Before arriving at Bay Hill, Rory McIlroy ranked 124th on the PGA Tour in strokes gained, putting, losing 0.1 strokes per round to the field. In fact, he'd missed the cut a week earlier at the Valspar Championship when he needed 58 putts for 2 days, and he made just a single attempt over 10 feet. It's one of those competitive ironies that having the weekend off turned out to be just what McIlroy needed. He went home to South Florida to work on his game and ran across Faxon at the Bears Club. Although Faxon's take on the art of putting was probably more involved than it had been a few years earlier, he seemed to have touched on all the right points. Freed up my head more than my stroke, McIlroy explained. I sort of felt like maybe complicating things a bit and thinking a little bit too much about it, and maybe a little bogged down by technical or mechanical thoughts. Earlier in the week, McIlroy had a slightly different take on his putting turnaround at Bay Hill, where he led the field in strokes gained, putting, picking up 10 shots for the week, and rolled in 49 putts over his last 5 holes to end a victory drought that had stretched back to the 2016 Tour Championship. Just playing around with it, seeing balls go in the front edge, trying to hit them in the left edge, the right edge, hit them off the back of the cup, he said on Thursday. Just trying to get a little bit more feel into it and a little bit more flow. If that doesn't exactly sound like an exact science, welcome to the Faxon way. In recent years, he's becoming something of the game's putting stroke whisperer, which is no huge surprise considering his status as one of the game's best on the greens. Between 1991, the year he won the first of 8 tour titles, through 2005, the year he won his last, Faxon ranked outside the top 20 in putting average just 4 times, and he led the circuit in that category 3 of those years. But in recent years, he's come into his own as a putting guru. The first clinic I attended that a tour player gave, it was Hale Irwin, and he talked about rhythm and tempo. I was disappointed because I wanted to hear more than that, Faxon explained. I thought there would be more technical stuff. I thought it was the default phrase to take pressure off the player, but the more I've learned about teaching the best players in the world, don't have many complicated thoughts. Faxon's career has been nothing short of impressive. His 8 tour titles, spanning 2 decades, but it's his work with players like McIlroy and Gary Woodland that has inspired him in recent years. A man has spent his life studying the nuances of the golf swing and putting stroke, has created a teaching philosophy as simple or complicated depending on the player as rhythm and tempo. He teaches me, which is a good thing. He doesn't have a philosophy, Woodland said. I was around him a lot in 2011, 2010. It's unbelievable how well he can relay it now. He has video of a million guys putting and he's one of the best to do it, but he can show you that you don't have to do it in one certain way, and that was good for me. For Woodland, Faxon keyed in on his background as a college basketball player and compared the putting stroke to how he shoots free throws. For McIlroy, it was a different sport, but the concept remained the same. We were talking about other sports where you have to create your own motion, a free throw shooter, a baseball pitcher. But what related to him was a free kick in soccer. He mentioned Wayne Rooney, Faxon said. You have to have something to kick start your motion. Maybe it's a trigger. Some might use a forward press or tapping the putter like Steve Stricker. Sometimes it's finding the trigger like that for a player. Faxon spent a good 2 hours with McIlroy last weekend at the Bears Club, not talking technique or method, but instead tapping into the intuitive nature of what makes someone a good putter. Midway through that session, Faxon said he didn't need to say another word. The duo ended the session with the putting contest, putting 30-footers to different holes. The goal was to make 5 aces, leading the contest 4-2. Faxon couldn't resist. Hey Rory, after you win Bay Hill this week, you'll have to tell the world you lost to Brad Faxon in a putting contest, Faxon joked. McIlroy proceeded to hold 3 of his next 4 attempts to win the contest. I'm going to tell everyone I beat Brad Faxon in a putting contest, McIlroy laughed. Maybe it's the way he's able to so easily simplify an exceedingly complicated game. Maybe it's a resume filled with more clutch putts than one could count. Whatever it is, Faxon is good at teaching. More importantly, he's having fun and doing something he loves. I have a hard time being called a teacher or a coach. It was more of a conversation with Rory. Being able to work with someone like Rory is as excited as I've ever been in my career, Faxon said. It meant much more to me than it did to Rory.